Okay. Okay, boys and girls. Right. So, Isolina, tell me what you have been up to.
Talking to you every day. No, I'm kidding. I don't really know where to begin. I started out my quarantine listening or watching Midnight Gospel on Netflix. I think it just really kickstarted this philosophical kind of or spiritual kind of positive force to go into this quarantine with. And I've been doing a lot of research actually, and have initiated. Well, I mean, besides finishing my my BFA in ceramics at MICA, um, it so all of the research on um, ceramicists of color, and how it just pertains to being a foundation for me to have as an artist. It just it went into this. It snowballed into this encyclopedia
Yeah.
archive.
Wait,
And
so before you talk about that, so right as this all went down, you were in your studio at MICA and you guys all got kicked out and they gave you
how
what,
I got broken up with, man.
yeah, like a week to move out.
Yeah.
And tell me how all that went down and like how that affected you finishing your thesis and then how that snowballed into the other thing.
Mhm. Well, I've never moved any of my large works before. They've all been in storage in various parts of the MICA studio, and my car actually broke down in a parking lot last year, and so I had to get a new car. And after having a couple conversations with my professors and my mom, they were all like, "You should probably get a pickup truck so you can actually move your work and transport all the materials that you're using all the time." That just weigh so much. Um,
How much do your sculptures weigh approximately? Do you know?
as of now, the last one I made weighed a little over 250, maybe
Wow.
almost 300 pounds. And I'm stubborn. I'd like to think that I could do it all myself.
You're like, no problem. I can just hulk this thing up into my pickup truck.
Yeah, and oh, I mean, I remember one point my professor and I were trying to move this piece off of this brick pedestal onto a cart because I just have I'm still struggling on how exactly to make work large, and then transfer it to the kiln, which is a whole nother journey that you just have to prepare for it in advance. My professor and I tried to lift 300 pounds together, and we ripped our hands, and we're just there haha, laughing, bleeding awkwardly.
Fine.
Yeah. So this piece, I didn't know how much these hydro is it hydraulic, this the pneumatic carts that can are adjustable, height adjustable. That really kind of saved my life. And so moving large pieces just with grog on the surface of these carts and pushing them back and forth, and then
Mhm.
holding them as I transport them to my car. And then at that point, I had to put a bunch of moving blankets and then tip it, literally tip 4 feet of because I was building really thick back then, a year ago.
Yeah.
So tipping a lot of a huge amount of weight. I had to ask all these security guards to help me at school.
Oh no.
And then it was a whole other thing. I made this, I had to take some of these pieces into my backyard. And so we had all these extra 2x4s because my mom and I were fixing up the deck, and we lied them down. And I had all these neighbors that I never met before because I don't talk to my neighbors. And we were just able to kind of push this figure to the very end of the truck and then kind of tip it again
Oh,
and
like stand it back up again.
yeah.
That sounds easier than the first part than getting it up, right? Or
And I just it was having to go through that in such a short amount of time. It kicked my ass, but I'm thankful that I had a couple friends who were willing to make the drive with me, because I do commute half an hour from school, so I was able to have people come with me, drop it off, and then take them back.
Yeah, well, how did you guys all, when you were moving out, was there like a sense of community about that, like in the ceramics program, or like did you guys all help each other kind of get it in here and get everything out, or
Yeah,
was it
most
other
people.
friends?
For me, it was mostly other friends, just because most people, like, they had so much to do and focus on just to clear out their studio as much as they can.
Hmm.
Uh, and actually, the time that we had to move out, initially we were given that 1 week period as the last chunk of time to make work. So we were actually all, in the studio, or some of us just couldn't come to terms with it. So they just focused on moving instead of like making last minute work. But
That
uh,
seems counterproductive to start building when you're being
yeah.
exported from your studio.
So right
But
in the middle of like the last week of building, they were like, actually, you have to move out. You can't be working. And so I was just like, it's like my kind of, I'm more of a night owl just because for me, I love people so much. It's really hard to focus. So that's why it's like when everyone leaves, I'll just go into the studio with a toothbrush and some like instant ramen and just spend
and
the entire.
Charlie, of course.
Yeah, he keeps me up. Or he also cries, and it's good to have a dog with me, to make it, to make me have a sleeping schedule, because he likes to sleep with me.
Hmm. So he's like, "Mom, come on, it's bedtime."
Yeah,
So
it's
cute. So when you got them home, you said you started finishing up the work as your thesis instead of continuing to build. You
Mhm,
worked on surface decoration.
mhm. Yeah, so I did a lot of like spray painting, oil painting, but one thing that I think a lot of, like, or sculptors, have in common is that like there's this anxiety and this like need to, constantly be working.
Hmm.
But I realized that, you could, kick ass and, do as much work physically as you can mentally. And so, like, learning how to write about my work and learning exactly where the influences come from, instead of constantly, you know, being trying to make meaning all the time. It's also good to step back and be like, okay, like I could write about this and then, figure out where exactly I want to go with it further.
Hmm. And so that kind of brought you into this new project that you're working on.
Yeah. And originally, it just started with me thanking the professors that I had at MICA, because I feel extremely lucky to, well, I mean, even just to be alive, or even to have met everyone I have in my life at this point in time. I had an extremely diverse group of professors that have like gotten me to where I am today.
Mhm.
I had Puni Magazi, Ajay Kurian, Victoria Jang, all these like, like mixed race, like American artists who kind of like showed me, like on, like, it wasn't like a conscious thing that they were talking about. It was about work and about sculpture and, teaching everyone, what it means to make 3D work. But I I think it was after having this artist lecture with Natalia Arborellis, who was literally like promoting, being proud of your US citizenship. It wasn't until I connected all those dots that I had these like really important professors that I don't think a lot of people have the chance, to get in institutions. And I was able to have like more than one. And how do we document, like modern, or not even modern, like if you talk about modernity, that like is done, it's happened.
Yeah.
Contemporary work, how do we even begin to archive all of these legacies and all of this information, especially in the digital age? And so that's kind of been my quest, for literally it's been a year, like accumulating all of this information, whether it be for like my thesis or for my art history class with Joan Watson, who we
Mhm.
literally all have, this like web page as a part of her PM wiki. And it's basically like a more selective Wikipedia. It's not like a free for all. Anyone can go in. You have to be part of like her class to be able to access this insane amount of like maybe 20 years of artists, you know,
Oh, wow.
going on these journeys. Yeah. So like you're basically making you're collecting influences into this body of work that people can comment on. And I was like, what if we did that and had it accessible, you know? And I mean, I spent hours during the quarantine just adding so much information to this like page that was a part of an art history program.
Well, you've always done that too. I've noticed you have these binders that have all these really interesting, sometimes random things that seem to all connect. And
Mhm.
I feel like this is a natural step for you in the
Yeah.
physical way. And I think it's so super cool to see what you're going to come up with. So tell me a little bit too about how you want to structure it and what type of things you want to include.
Yeah. So I didn't notice it, but I think I have this weird existential fear that, you know, everything that I love and care about won't be documented properly. So I like take it upon myself to like, I mean, it's the whole reason I got into art making in the first place through photography. Like you could capture all of these things in real time and like save that memory, but to go even further, like how do you save like the legacies of the people that you love and care about and how you've been, you know, who've also like influenced you in this case through art making. So um I forgot the question. Are you asking like how I
Um,
reached out?
how do you want to format it? What type of questions are you asking artists? Is
Mhm.
it like a full biography of them, like what's most important to their work, or does it vary?
So actually, I can show you a little bit of this project as of now. It's kind of like in a book format, but it's separated by generation and by decade.
Cool.
And so, you know, I think like if if we were to document work by like, you know, multicultural, ambiguous, or immigrant, or just like, you know, Americans of color, like where do you even begin with that? There's like so many that you could um, there's so many different like uh, categories of people and artists and makers. But if you organize it by time period, I think that through that you can kind of like dissect it in any way you can, in any way that you want to, whether it be through the Harlem Renaissance or it be through just being able to look at people who kind of resemble, you know, multiculturalism, which has been redefined for me probably like every day. Like, is it a doctrine,
Yeah.
an ideology? Well,
I imagine it changes with each person that you talk to as well, because
yeah,
I'm sure it means something different to everybody.
yeah. And it's like, I mean, right now, what's been inspiring me the most is having this kind of, you know, having to term this in the first place. Like, what do you call this research? And so I've been, you know, kind of, it could be subject to change, but it's a compendium of meta modern, you know, multicultural brilliance. That's what I've been, you know, calling it. But when you
That's
look,
such a great name.
thank you. And it was looking at, you know, what meta modernity is. It's kind of, it's a progress similar to, you know, modernism, you know, like being able to, you know, not have to go through famines anymore, and and being able to, you know, not be controlled by the government in such a way that, you know, like really impacted history. But it's this like new progress, that's not so much on like science and objectivity, but it's on a progress of perspective, a progress that is like more of the soul as this. So I have to, it's like Brian, is his name Brian? I have to get his name really quick.
No worries. If you want to share your screen too, we can probably put that in.
Yeah, his
Like
name is Daniel P. Gortz, by the way. This
not Brian.
no, this meta modern philosopher is not Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share now.
Your desktop is always
I have
uh it's I'm looking for the right word. Busy.
I think I tried to share something with you last time, and I had like 60 tabs. I've reached like the limit of tabs you could open on Chrome, and it's like yet again, it's like I don't really like to let things disappear or like even for a little bit, I
Yeah.
want to save them all.
Hmm.
Um, so
Okay,
this is
tell me
kind of,
what we're looking at.
Yeah, so this is the intro to the Compendium of Multicultural Metamodern Brilliance, an archive of, multicultural American artists forging cultural authenticity. And so I've actually been going on a lot of Zoom calls or, artist lectures and panels. And I just talked to Leanne Trong maybe a couple days ago. And I think I told you, earlier that I've been harassing all these people online, like, I love you, you're my bleeping hero. Here's a project that I started, and I would be so honored to, have you not only as like one of my role models, whether it be recently or, as of the past couple years, like if you would, be able to join me on this insane like quest to, put all of us together into this like historical document that, that could help other people, other students, like, make dreams, look up to people, have it as right here, as I wrote, to become a catalyst for activism and a shift in our history that celebrates, multicultural, immigrant, and ambiguous artists of color, rooting them in an integral part of history and culture. And to have this database really be accessed to anyone, whether they be a student, an artist, an educator. And so Leanne Trong said that, like, we have to forge space, and the art community has to make space. It's like this symbiosis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this is kind of like the intro, and then from here it really starts. And so I'm like on this never-ending quest of getting all of these artists together. But like what's insane is that a lot of them I actually know. So it's not like I'm reaching out, to strangers. It's like 80% people who I've looked up to and have talked to. And then obviously the ratio is going to change, but I've really been like reaching out to not only like sculptors my age, ceramicists my age, but philosophers, art historians, educators, activists. Like they've all agreed to be a part of this.
Yeah, it sounds like people have been responding really well to you.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I have zero standards, and that's why everything is such a present. And like, I'm so happy all the time because I'm like, wow, things that I had no idea would work out are actually like coming into, they're gaining momentum. And it's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's gonna be like it's gonna grow in so many different ways. Oh, I love that piece of Vicky's, the one with the horsehair.
Yeah. And I remember, because I was her studio assistant, we were doing this in her studio, like watching YouTube. It was like, 4 a.m. And there was like glue all over my hands. And I was like looking up to this person, not realizing how much they would affect my life so positively. I mean, she's like a really important person in my life. And I'm just grateful that I was able to, and it's funny. So Vicky was in a Ceramic Monthly magazine. We have a huge collection of them at Clayworks, like, upstairs. And so I was looking through all of them because it was kind of slow one day. It was like during the winter, so cold.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through all of these magazines of Ceramic Monthlies, and then I see her in like 2014 edition. And so I started just like crapping my pants, and I was like, oh my God, I think this will be teaching at MICA. And so then one of the first things I say to Vicky, I'm like fangirling over her.
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw you in Ceramic Monthly. And she was looking at me like, who is this? I was like a cherry bomb, or I don't know. I was just like this explosion of energy.
I feel like that's how a lot of people would describe you in the best way. And I feel like definitely being translated into this book. And I'm so excited to see how it all turns out.
My mom is right here. Mama. Oh, 지금 인터뷰했는데 여기 와고 싶어? She doesn't want to be on camera.
Well, tell her I said hi.
Yeah, says hi. Marina, she's my coworker at Clayworks. Oh. You want to say hi? The person who gave birth to me.
Oh, hi. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Isolina is my favorite person in the world. Thank you for giving her to us.
알았어. That's the lady who gave birth to me. She's amazing. I didn't realize she was calling me. She's like, eat breakfast with me. Come on. And I was like talking to you like,
we can wrap this up. I feel like if you have any other pages you want to show or
yeah. I mean, so all these people actually, Audrey was my professor. One of the most like very like rigorous, like life-changing professors. Andrew, my boss. Cindy Chang, someone I met at the ceramic studio. Pune Magazi, also one of my professors. And so, and I actually had a conversation with Jenny 2 days ago. What's today, Friday? It was literally the most amazing, most relatable experience, and we want to continue talking together. And so I was like, what the hell, Dante? We're like emailing and DMing all the time. Like, we're actually showing together at Clayworks in the fall with
cool.
Mary. So yeah, so all these people, I mean, they're like not only extremely talented and like role models for me, but like they're also the sweetest people that I've ever met.
Yeah, and it's so cool. The ceramics community is so big, but it's so tight knit that it's like everyone you talk to. I mean, we didn't get to go to NCECA this year, but I'm sure next year at NCECA, this is going to be like an awesome thing for you to just like talk everybody's heads off about it and get to know even more people. The connections and introductions that you'll get from just even half these people are so many more other leads for it.
Yeah. And it's like also through this that like it's I feel like a relearning of American history in the context not only of art but like of literature and philosophy. And I'm just really excited that I've been able to gather so many talented people into one document that hopefully I'm having a meeting with Press today, which is a Baltimore publishing initiative. First of all, the city is so underrated. Like there are so many beautiful, amazing, and whip smart people who have who are just like doing such beautiful and such important things here, like Press, who are giving narratives and voices to like underrepresented voices, or that's kind of like their focus. So I'm really happy that I was suggested to reach out to them. And it's funny because one of the organizers of that publishing initiative is someone who was my boss at a cafe, this Korean cafe that was open for a little bit.
That's super random, but
yeah. And I was like, "Woman, hello, former boss.
Remember me?"
But yeah, so I mean, in my first my introduction to ceramics was at a Sioux pottery shop in the Northwest, and my dad would take me on these road trips to Native American museums and stores, and we would come back to Chicago with like a crap ton of Native American music, like CDs. He'd get me earrings, we'd get like sweaters, and I'm making sure that like every person in the US, every kind of artist is represented here.
Yeah.
And so my research is actually, this is towards the end of it, it's gone all the way back to the 1800s. And so I hope that this research, just because we work in Baltimore City and me specifically with children, I want to make sure that I can give, a very good foundation of ceramics and in this case, sculpture in general. So they know, like all my students know that there is like someone that could, be a role model for them, even if it wasn't shown in school. Like hopefully I can show it through here. And so this is as I know, the oldest sculptor that I have.
Wow.
Documented. Yeah.
1844 she was born.
Yeah. And so like, artists
old for that time as well.
Yeah. So, people have been sculpting, forever at this point. I don't want to say forever, but there's so many talented people that we have yet to discover.
This is going to be an awesome resource. Thank you so much for sharing it and for talking with me. I miss you so much.
I miss you.
I miss everybody in the studio.
If no one knows this, Marina visited me at work on the weekends because our weekday shifts did not match, and she would bring me food, happiness, and just I've never met anyone like you. I mean, you're like literally Baltimore's like, best kept secret.
No.
Not secret anymore. Everyone, oh, I just hope through this that everyone falls in love with you. And I mean, how is your ceramic practice going? And
It's
how has Clayworks affected your journey in ceramics?
Clayworks has affected my journey in ceramics a lot. So I think I've told you before, my mom was a potter when I was growing up, and I took a couple classes with her when I was young, and I just always loved being in that environment. And she
Mm-hmm.
did so many crafts growing up, but she really stuck with ceramics for a long time, and I could tell how much she loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
even when I talk to her about stuff, she like gets excited and she's like, "Oh, are you doing this? Are you doing this?"
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I love doing it as its own thing, but I love getting that chance to like connect with her because
Yeah.
we live in different states. So, sometimes it's hard with like
Mm-hmm.
getting to do that in, everyday life. You get swept up in other things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so Clayworks has really gotten me back into that and allowed me to explore it on my own and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
very thankful for that. And I got to meet you through there. So
Oh, man. Yeah, we're both able to, I feel like, be so greatly impacted by this place, and I'm just happy that we know each other and that we have today to talk. And it's really awesome to be able to talk to you about so many things and have it also be recorded. It's crazy.
well, thank you again. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Woohoo.